to leave right away.
All right. I just have a also at 3 o'clock sharp. I have another interview I gotta hop on. So what time are we going till?
Perfect. We're going until 3 o'clock, but we can end a few minutes early if you need.
Yeah, that's okay. Like 2 minutes early, so I can run to the restroom real quick if I have to. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone this afternoon. I'm Debbie Horovitch from Social Sparkle and Shine, and you're tuning in again for another episode of Sparkle SOS, Book Authors and Publishers, which is the first Hangout on Air show that I started and that I have a lot of fun with. So we keep on doing it. We've got I've got a great panel of guests here today, and we are talking about, as we always do, talking about the experience of being a book author and what it's really like to publish your book, whether you're being self-published or you're published by a traditional publishing firm, and what are your successes, what are the things that surprise you that you're going to change for the next time, that you learn lessons from. And so I'm really excited to welcome everyone on the panel and in the viewing audience. Thank you for joining us here today. What I'm going to ask everyone to do is introduce themselves on the guest panel first, and then we'll have Mike introduce himself and tell us all about Profit First, which is the book that he's just about to launch and that we're here to talk about today. So I think I'll start with Donna, if that's okay, if you're ready.
Sure. Hi.
Hi, Donna.
Hi. It's great to see you virtually today, Debbie.
Thank you. Why don't you tell us about where you are personally as a book author, from anywhere from aspiring to best-selling, and what you're hoping to get out of the conversation today.
Well, I'm Donna Lyons, and I am president of Prevendus Group, and we find extraordinary ways to help small business owners build extraordinary businesses. And my book right now is all up here in my head, but after years and years of working with small business owners and seeing what works and what doesn't work, I know that it's coming, my time is coming. And for me, it's really about when do I start putting that pen to paper, so to speak. And this is also the second book launch that I've been through with my business partner, Mike Michalowicz, who's about to launch Profit First. So I'm here to support him, and also I just love the whole process. I learned a lot when we launched the Pumpkin Plan, and I'm learning a lot through Mike's launch of Profit First right now. So
awesome. Well, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm sure you're getting great insights from the inside of watching both of those launches. So thank you for joining us. Hi, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Awesome. Thank you. So tell us about yourself.
So I am a everlasting experience designer, and that's a fancy way of saying I'm a master of ceremonies, a non-denominational spiritual officiant, and a DJ in Northern California, and just actually moved to Sacramento, but cover all of Northern California, go down to Southern California, Disney, all that good stuff. But the reason I am here today is there is a book churning in my brain. I actually have an outline of it from a workshop that I already do, and I want to build a book around that workshop and develop it a little bit further, but I'm not quite there yet because, like most people that say I'm going to write a book, I just don't ever seem to find the time to do it. So hopefully that will happen soon enough. But
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you're here, and hopefully something in the conversation today might spark you to take action today.
I'm sure something will come out, yes.
Maybe even if you just blog an outline of your book and publish something like that. That's the first step.
It's possible, yeah.
So next I'm going to ask Phil to introduce himself. Hi, Phil. Great to see you here today.
Hi, Debbie. Everybody else? Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Right. I'm another aspiring author. I've got various books all running around my head, like 4 or 5 at once. My problem is actually focusing down onto one of them. I'm English, as you can tell from my accents, but I live in Ireland, in Cork. I moved here 10 years ago now for the quiet life, which I have a quiet life. My place is totally different. I've got half an acre, and my neighbours are all cows, literally. So, you know, it's great. Apart from the bumps coming down the lane, you know, I need a 4x4, and all I've got is a 15-year-old little tiny car instead, because Irish roads are not very good. But what am I here for? Basically, I'm here to listen and to learn from all you seasoned writers.
Well, welcome. I'm glad that you're here today. I hope that something in the discussion that we have today will help stimulate and support and encourage you. And I think, you know, you talking about it is difficult to choose the subject of your book. It's difficult to, especially when you start to feel like, God, I know so much about so many things. And there's so many things that I can share with people. How do you really define it? And I think that that's one of the things that we can really get into today in the conversation with Mike, because, I mean, we know, Mike, you're very prolific. You've been publishing all over the place for a really long time. What is it that makes you decide that now profit first is the one thing that you're going to be able to focus an entire book on? So maybe that's a good segue for you to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, I like that segue. So yeah, I'll introduce myself first. I'll start off with a little trivia. Of the 4 guests along with myself on this call, 3 guests I have gotten drunk with on the top of a roof in San Francisco, and 1 person lives in a country where I want to visit and they have lots of cows out there. So you guess who's who.
Trivia, and I was waiting for Phil to say pigs. Piggy banks.
Piggy banks, yeah. So no, I've never been to Ireland.
Sorry, I missed that.
And I aspire to get out there. So I'm an author of now 3 books. I sat in everyone's shoes literally 5 years ago, or maybe 6 years ago now, saying, "Oh my God, I have all these ideas in my head. I want to write a book one day," and it made the leap of faith. And now that's what I define myself as. I'm an author. So you just kind of dig in, and maybe this can be a conversation around that first question you posed, is that when it comes to picking your thing, I figured out the best thing to pick is the smallest thing. And what I mean by that is I had all these ideas going around in my head, and then I said, well, instead of all these ideas, let me break them into different pieces. And I don't know if I could do a screenshot, but in Evernote here, on my Evernote system, I actually have about 60 book concepts that I broke my original ideas into, and I still have it here, and I'm still adding to it. And then I picked up all these little micro ideas, which is the one I feel most compelled and excited about in the moment and would serve me. And I think that's another little lesson I found for myself, is ultimately write the book for yourself. Realize you're writing it, of course, to serve others, but write it because you are excruciatingly curious about the subject. And once you start writing about it and it excites and interests you, the potential of writing a powerful book that'll impact people increases dramatically. You know, and just adding to that, I had a friend of mine actually told me a great lesson. He and I were walking to a speaking event that I was having. This was only a few years ago, and we walked by a classroom. It was at a college campus, and he points in. And he goes, "Oh, there's the best student." And we keep on walking on. I didn't pay much mind to it. In the next classroom, he points out, "Oh, there again, best student, right there." And by the second or third time he did this, it was like, his name's JB. I'm like, JB, who are you pointing to? You pointing to the kid sitting up front, like the one that's right in front of the teacher? He goes, No. I said, well, who's the best student? Is the one with the most notes, or the person that arrives first, or speaks to the teacher after class? He goes, no, it's none of that. He goes, the best student is very easy to pick out because it's the teacher. Inevitably, the best student is the teacher. The person that's giving the information has to be the master of the information first. So he's like, that's always the best student. It's always the person that's most interested in the subject. So as an author, the question is not really what you need to teach. The question is, what do you need to learn? What do you thirst about? And once you thirst about it, you'll become the master and the teacher of it. So Profit First. Here, this is the new book. It just came in a few days ago, by the way. It's the hardcover. It's now at Amazon. But I wrote about this because this is the lesson I needed to learn. Oh, nice, nice.
Sorry, Mike. I had to show my copy to you.
Is that the hardcover?
I don't know if the word hard.
I have my copy.
I don't know if the video will change. I just got mine yesterday, so.
Good. Yeah, Donna lives like 2 houses down from me. She still doesn't have hers, so now I feel like a total schmo.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I ripped you off. Well, Donna and I spoke. She's going to come by and get one. Or actually, a few. But when I wrote Profit First, what triggered it was my own financial desperation. I'd grown a couple businesses and sold them, and this, I can't put another word for it, but an arrogance overcame me. I was a total dick. I thought I knew more than anyone else in the world, and I knew how to be successful. And if you just listened to me, I had the answers to everything. And I felt that. I hope I wasn't behaving that way outwardly, but I suspect I was. Inwardly, I thought I was the know-all, be-all to entrepreneurship. And with that, along came financial disaster. I wasted money frivolously, arrogantly, and hit this rock bottom moment where there was no money left over. And my daughter, that's why I have a piggy bank on the cover, my daughter came to me when I told my family, when I finally was humbled enough to admit to my family how badly I sucked at financials and how I lost every penny that I'd earned. My daughter came to me with her piggy bank and put it in front of me and said, I'm going to help us, Dad. And that's a humbling moment where your 9-year-old daughter is trying to salvage the financial disaster you brought upon your family. And it was also, though, the kick in the butt I needed to wake up to. This is something I need to learn. So 5 years ago, I started learning it, employing it, using it, finding what worked and what didn't work. And then I said, wow, I got to write about this because this is what I need to know more than anyone else in this world. And that's the starting point, at least for me. Small things, really unique, very niche-y type things, but the things I need to master for myself.
And you started learning about it. I think you could see the interest and the attraction to the subject matter early because you started writing about it, I think, in the Wall Street Journal in 2010. Was that the first like big
Yeah, so here's a little author secret for you. Once you need to learn something, it doesn't mean everyone else wants to learn it. I want to learn Spanish. I don't think many people want to learn Spanish from me. So it doesn't mean I'm necessarily the best platform to deliver everything that I thirst after. It's got to be within my core competency. And the only way to know if you're really the person that should be delivering this stuff is if you test the water, so to speak. So when I wrote Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, my first book, that was 5 years ago, the inkling of this concept was already there, and I wrote literally a couple paragraphs about it, maybe a little section, but no more than like 5 or 6 paragraphs. And I just observed, and I didn't make mention of it. I didn't start announcing, hey, I got this new concept. But some people started reaching out saying, hey, when I read your book, I found this little segment. I really liked it. And I was like, maybe there's something there. And I was still investigating it for myself. I was still passionate about it, but I didn't know if others were. Then I wrote a Wall Street Journal article about it, and it exploded. Like, that was the most popular article I've written for them. And I was like, okay, there's interest in this. Maybe it's time I start writing a book. And that was about 3 years ago when I started devoting time to the research, and 2 years ago where I said, this is the topic, the next one I need to write about. And I wrote it.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, you know, another thing, I hope you don't mind, I'm just espousing all these thoughts.
No, please, I love it.
Another thing is when you get started, when all of you get started writing a book, if it's your first book, or if you're along the path, it makes no difference. Ask yourself, what does your audience need next? So once I wrote Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, that was something I needed to learn. I asked myself, what would my audience care about next? And I started reaching out to readers. And I found that they wanted to grow a business, scale a business. The Pumpkin Plan came about. And I asked my readers again, like, now you heard Pumpkin Plan, what do you need most? And actually, Debbie, you responded. I put that stuff on Facebook and so forth, and people are like, oh, systems would be good. How do I have it run on automatic? And that's the way I was leaning. And then I started saying, well, what about profitability? And people are like, you know, Mike, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, and I don't want to say this publicly, but I'm not profitable. I'm actually going broke. I kind of want that, but I don't think anyone else does. I think I want that, but no one else does. So write the systems book. Well, enough people said, I want profit, but don't talk about it. That I was like, oh, holy cow, this is the subject. This is it. I didn't want to talk. I was so embarrassed by my losses. I didn't want to. Yeah, it's the elephant. It's the elephant. Or the cow if you were in Ireland.
Or the broken baby.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about I'm curious to know the impact in your family. Your daughter must be 13, 14, 15?
15 now. So 15, right. So she was 9 at the time.
What does she think about it?
So here's the most interesting thing. I've approached her a few times saying, oh, you know, that moment was a big deal for me, and she doesn't remember it. She doesn't remember it. And at first I was like, this is like the most pivotal moment in my life, I think. And she was the main character, and like an angel delivering this message to me, and she doesn't remember it? And then it hit me. That that's integral to who she is as a character. And of course she doesn't remember it. No, she just by default contributes. She just by default gives. And so that's just the person she is. So it's almost an automatic response for her. She does that over and over. She's a contributor, a giver. And now I know now it makes sense. That's why she, of course, would never remember. That's how she rolls, you know.
Because it's every day for her to do that. But it was a pivotal day for you when you saw it.
Yeah. You know, that triggered another thought. As an author, here's some author tips for you. What I found is that a hardcover book, for me, once it gets momentum, represents maybe 30% of the sales. Print books, I should say, hardcover and softcover. Kindle represents about 50% of sales, and the remaining 20% is Audible, audiobooks. And the audio version in the business genre for me, is exploding. Like that may come to the 50% point. So if you write a book, make the investment of doing an audio version for sure. Make the investment of making a Kindle version for sure. And what I found also is always reach out to your readers and learn how they want those versions delivered. For example, with the audio version, when I reached out to my community of people that have read The Pumpkin Plan, I reached out to people that had listened to the audio version. I said, you know, what do you like about the book? Well, how can I make it better? And a few people came to me and said, you know, there's another guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. I like his books. He doesn't just read his books. He'll stop, make a pause, and then tell you why he wrote a certain section, what he's thinking now in the moment about that section he wrote. He's like, you don't do that, Mike, in your books, and that's the coolest thing on the planet. You should do that. So I did it. And so my new book, the Profit First audio version, has these breakouts where I just start riffing and explaining why I'm doing certain things and talking about certain things. So just, you know, recognize the one media format. My personal favorite, I love hardcover books. I just love them. Doesn't mean everyone else does, but actually the majority of people don't.
Yeah.
Secondly, ask your customers, your readership, what they want. Our books, as authors, these are products just like anything else. This is like a Wheaties box. You know, it doesn't matter what we like alone. It's also very much so what our customers respond to, and the format is very important. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Did anybody else want to talk about, you know, what you're thinking about writing, where you're struggling, or you know what you're exploring, focusing down on, whittling into? I'll jump in. For me,
resounding silence. I have everyone.
Top secret, Mike. We can't tell anybody.
I know. I have everyone saying, "Hold on, is Mike still talking? Because I got to finish checking my email."
I mean, it's interesting for me because I started this whole show because I needed some action that was going to put me in the social sphere of authors who were successful, and I needed to start networking with authors who would get to know me and hopefully want to take the time to help me, to share with me how they were doing it. Because when I first reached out to people about the idea of, I think I have something bigger that I need to say to the world, and I'd like to do it in a book, and I'd like to get the benefits of being a book author. I'd like that experience in my life. I feel like that's something that I need. When I expressed that to people, I really got a lot of sort of like negative response, and you can't do that. And even still, 5 years ago, the publishing industry and the publishing world, it wasn't at our feet the way that it is now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and so I would argue self-publishing is the outlet to go with. I've on both sides of the game. I've published through Penguin Books, who's I think is an exceptional company. I love working with them, and I've self-published. And what I found is the paradigm has finally shifted enough where it's almost exclusively makes sense to start off with self-publishing. And the reason is a publisher today needs books that are huge hits immediately. The publishing industry's changed so much that if I'm Penguin or Random House or Hay House or any of those brands, I need a book that's going to sell tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of copies of books, but immediately, because I'm going to give an advance substantial amount of money, and I don't have the time to wait a year or two to pay back, or even, and I can't risk it not paying back anymore. I can't hope that 1 out of 100 books hits. All of them have to hit. So publishers are looking for books that will be hit out of the park immediately and run for perpetually. And if they can't get the double, if they can't get one that is great right from the get-go, selling a lot and stays and sustains, they'd rather have one that sells great right from the get-go just to recover the money that they put out in the advance. So being a publisher today is very risky, and you can see the collapse of publishing and the merging of companies and so forth. So, but us as authors, how that changes things is it's really hard to get a publisher. Secondly, even if you're in with a publisher, it doesn't mean you're staying. So Penguin, when I approached them about this concept of profit first, they said, Mike, we like you, but it's a risky topic. It sounds like another accounting book. I think people are sick of accounting. And I'm like, no, you don't get it. This changes. Accounting is a bunch of nonsense. This replaces. Like, no, Mike, we think you don't get it. No one wants to talk about money. And I said, no, but you're right. They don't want to talk about money publicly, but it is the elephant in the room, and there's a way to tackle it. And they said, no, you're wrong. And I think they made the right move of saying I'm wrong, but now the onus is on me to say, no, I am right, and to prove it to them. So they released me to be able to publish the book through myself or through another publisher. And I decided I'm going to start off this one on my own. Now, you can't see the book, but Jason over there can sleep with it if he wishes because it's in his hand already. But
so pretty, Mike. I
so
love
pretty.
it.
But
it's very velvety, actually.
It's very velvety. It's a little
even
bit.
The pages are just a weird.
Yes.
Not weird, but I mean they're very.
You said it had like a rubbery feel.
Yeah, exactly. The cover and stuff. The point is, the consumer for this hardcover book cannot distinguish if this is self-published or if it's published through, through a traditional publisher.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And
I would have no idea.
You'd have no idea. The only way you can distinguish is by looking for the mark of the publisher. You don't see Penguin or there anywhere on there. But here's the deal: is for the customer, the experience is going to be with your physical product or with the Kindle or with the audio. When it comes to Kindle and audio, and that represents 70 to 80% of your customers, they're not going to have any tangible tactile experience with the book. So there is no distinguishing it between a traditionally published book and a self-published book. And when it comes to a hardcover, I argue as authors, everyone should be doing the proper hardcover production quality so the people that do have the tactile experience can't tell. And they say don't judge a book by the cover, but we do. We all judge a book by a cover. So I'm saying make a damn good cover. Make a damn good impression, because that first impression sets the stage for the next impression. And now what happens is why we should self-publish is if we come out of the platform, deliver our books at a quality level that's consistent with a publishing house. If we can now perform, the sales level can perform the way we want it to perform, you will make significantly more money. A published book, if you're through Penguin or something, you get about $2.50 for every book that sells. If you're self-published, net, your final profit is about $11 to $12 a book, so about 5 to 6 times more. So you'll make more money. But the second thing is if the book performs at a certain level, what's called BookScan, which is the Nielsen ratings for book sales, BookScan will trigger off that your book is selling well, and it notifies the publishers, and then they come back to you and say, wow, you have a winner book. It's now a safe bet for them. They know they have a book that's selling, so it'll continue to sell. Now they'll pay you a significant premium on your advance, It puts you in the
you've
driver's
proven
seat.
it.
Because you've proven it, and that's what they want to acquire. So publishers
Exactly.
are moving to this acquisition platform, I believe. They're buying well-performing books. And
Right.
my hypothesis is self-publish every book. Even if you're a published author,
Yeah.
I believe it may be in your best interest to initially self-publish and then back-sell the book back to the publisher.
Because then you'll get a better published deal. You'll get a better deal from publishers when you've proven your proof of concept of how it can sell and how your personality can carry that subject.
Mike, I got a question for you on that.
Talk to me, my brother from another mother.
So it sounds kind of like you're taking the MC Hammer approach, where you're selling all your music out of the back of your car, and then the record labels are coming to you and they're saying, we want to pick you up, but we're only going to give you pennies on the dollar, and you can turn around and say, no, wait a second. I'm already successful on my own. You have to show me what you can do to make this bigger and better and still pay me for it. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
And that's as far as I go with the MC Hammer analogy, because then otherwise then you go bankrupt and become a preacher.
That's why I stopped right there.
Yeah, I love it. No, you're right. And I would argue 10, 20 years ago, I believe it was the opposite was true, because the publishers could take a risk that you could probably get more money as an unknown or unquantified author. But today, I think, prove it first. Now, here's the thing. People say, well, it costs a lot of money to prove it. I got to advertise like crazy. I got to market it. It may not be a hit. I'd rather have the money up front, because if it doesn't work, I'm screwed, and I don't have the budget to market it. The thing is, publishers today, they don't market you. They do offer some serious advantages, instant distribution. They do marketing by putting your book in an airport, where not many people go to an airport and buy my book, but if they see the cover of the book and they see it again elsewhere, the potential they may buy it increases because they see it frequently. So there is a marketing advantage. There's no question about it. But they can't afford the risk anymore. So it's kind of forcing the issue that we need to self-publish.
Do you think that they're publishing less titles? Like it's just occurring to me in this conversation that they may be publishing where they might have published 50 titles in a year and been okay with taking a risk on some of them or taking a risk on some of the authors. Now they're being really picky and only picking the 10 or dozen that they feel are going to be real big hits.
Yeah, well, what they're doing, yes, that's part of it. They do publish less authors, but they are amplifying titles through a performing author. So say you're Gary Vaynerchuk, is a great example. He got his book deal, I think, was 10 books. So once he had a hit out of the park, they're like, oh, we want to do 10 more books with you. Because what a publisher knows, and we all know this, if you like one book, the chance of you falling in love with that author and by default buying the other books that she publishes is much greater. Like, I love Malcolm Gladwell's stuff. And honestly, some of his books weren't as good as others. But it's Malcolm Gladwell. I'm going to buy it the second I hear about it. So he becomes a safe bet. A publisher knows that once an author is performing well, that their next book, even if it isn't written as well, it'll carry on the momentum of the prior book. So that's safer again to them. So,
Jason, do you think that we want to go talk a little bit about the elephant in the room? Is this a frank conversation about book authorship?
What do you want me to? Which elephant are we talking about? There's a lot of elephants.
Let's talk about it. I love what you said, Mike. I think that there's great insights in that. I think it's really interesting that you bring up Gary Vaynerchuk specifically, because Gary is someone that I followed for a very long time. I bought all of his books. I was a fan of Gary's before his first book came out. And I think Jason and I have had the conversation a few times about how it seemed like for his last book, Jab, 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 Hook, he did a lot of really hard promoting and really hard sales. And if you buy 5 copies of my book, like 5 months in advance of it being released, if you buy 5 copies of my book, I'm going to do everything for you in the world and blah, blah, blah. And I'm open to everything. Just buy my book. I have to prove to my publisher that social media works. Buy my book. I bought 5 copies of his book.
Right.
arrived as hardcover copies. It is the biggest and heaviest book that, like, it cost me $20 just to ship it to anyone who I gave it as a gift. So not only did I spend $25 on it, and then I had to spend another $25 just to give it away. Once the book was released, Gary went completely silent, and there was no love for anyone. And the conversation between myself and a lot of other people that really had been his fans and his supporters who were eagerly anticipating the launch of this book, and we had all contributed to it being a big launch for him. He was kind of like the bad boyfriend at a party that just humped your leg.
Right.
Like it was just like, I'm like, oh, go away, Gary. Because I'm
going to make a little note here. If I don't like something you're saying,
one of his books. I won't. I mean,
I guess I'll chime in since I was a behind-the-scenes contributor to this conversation. I too have been a big fan of Gary. I have pictures of me with Gary, so and autographs on his book, and he's actually written on my Facebook page. So I'm definitely a big fan of Gary, and I was well before his books came out. But I felt the same thing with his last book. It was just, here's my book, buy it. I'm going to do what I can to help you out. Tell me what you want me to do to help you out. He had a page, which I'm sure we might get into the Profit First launch, but he had a page similar where it was you could buy so many copies of it and you'll get X, Y, and Z, or, and this is not on yours, Mike, but at the bottom of it, he had a spot that basically said, tell me what you want. And make me, it was the barter. So tell me you're going to buy 300 books, and what do you want me to do? Do you want me to send a virtual greeting card to your best friend? What do you want? And I'll do it. And granted, I didn't have the money to spend on that many books and actually make a great barter out of it, but it did just feel like he had so many partners that he gained with doing this. So there were the social media gurus on this side and the social media gurus on that side, and they would do these little one-on-one interviews that by about the 15-minute mark of an hour-long session, it really felt like a sales pitch, and you started to just tune it out, and you go, well, I came for the free book, but I didn't expect this to be a timeshare presentation. So
there you go,
it was a little awkward. It was awkward, especially coming from how genuine Gary is. I mean, in anything else I've seen him do, whether it's his TED presentations or just his off-the-cuff other presentations and his blog posts and everything, he's very genuine. And then when it got to the promotion of this book, it started to feel very fake. And I think that's kind of where Debbie is too. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but it just felt like we had, well, I don't want to use her analogy because I'm a guy, but it just felt like we had been kind of pushed out of the room and said, okay, you bought it. Now I got to go talk to this person.
Here's what I'm hearing. As Debbie would say, I don't know if you can see my son.
You're humping my leg.
Humping my leg. The Debbie comment there. I think one thing, and I can't speak for what the experience was with Gary, but I think one challenge I see is the old overpromise, underdeliver. That we say, oh, but here's the world, and then it's like, well, now I got to deliver on this stuff. It's a lot of stuff to do, and people fade out. I also feel that some authors aren't authors at first; they're authors second, and they have a business that they're running in front of it. That's their main source of income and lifestyle, and that's the main thing that they get their energy out of. And books come second. So Ariana Huffington, for example, is a good example. She came out of the book, launched the heck out of it, and then has vanished from that book launch to hop back to her business of Huffington Post. And so I think as authors, it's a real question to us ourselves, is are we fully devoted to this? Is this our primary interest? There can be secondary businesses, but are we leading it, all the other things that come behind us, as an author first and foremost? And if so, that means you have to engage with your readership. You have to, when you make a promise around your books, you've got to deliver on every piece and every element of it. And when it becomes a time suck, you have to then make the decision, and Don and I have had discussions about this, where the business part has to become second to the leadership as an author. Because the second if I compromise myself as an author and say, well, I'll blow everyone off and just get to my business, that's the day, stick a fork in me. I've lost my branding, my authenticity, and stick a fork in me.
I'd like to just comment here that I think authenticity is really the key, and what I think it's very easy for any author, and it's a lesson for us to remember someday when we're promoting our book. It's very easy to get caught up in this idea that we have to promote, we have to do whatever it takes to get the book out there, and there are people telling you to do this, do that, do all these different mediums and do social media and offer all these things, but the reality is that it's not possible to deliver on all of your promises. You have to be very aware of what are you capable of doing.
Yeah, you're right.
Don't promise things that when it comes down to it, if 100 people take you up on it, that you couldn't possibly deliver.
So my book launches on July 8th, and as Jason was pointing out, inspired by Jason actually, I have a launch page going on. You turned me on to what Gary did with his, but I want to share one reason why you do want to do a launch. And the misnomer that gets floated around is that, you want to have a bestseller, an Amazon bestseller for the day, right? So people are like, I can get Amazon #1 for the day. Well, let me tell you something about that. No one gives a shit. No one cares about Amazon bestseller for a day. But here is what does happen that no one talks about, is when you have a book selling aggressively on Amazon, Amazon's automatic system picks it up and starts automatic promotion. You get higher in the recommendations engines. They start automating emails that send out to people that have read other books by that author. The sales bring about automated enhanced sales by Amazon. So it can spark massive momentum. And so that launch day, for me, July 8th, is a big deal. Now, statistically, the numbers, I got to move 2,000 individual books that day, 2,000 individual book sales, I should say, that day, for it really to trigger major attention from Amazon's automatic system. If I sell 2,000 books, but it's one purchase, I myself just go in and purchase it, it doesn't trigger anything, because that Amazon realizes that that's probably a faked purchase or just one large company, but it doesn't mean there's interest from a large community. So the magic number I found is 2,000 individual orders, different people showing interest in a book, and Amazon kicks in significantly. There is some services out there that make this an artificial process too. So you could hire a company for $30,000. I don't know what the number is, $50,000 if you have the money, and they will do this for you. One of the problems I have with it, first of all, I think it's unethical, but secondly, I think that they sell the book to parties that get compensated for purchasing the book, aka it's people that don't give two hoots about your book. They're not interested. So it doesn't foster the second stage of marketing, which is when you have an interested purchaser buy your book. I believe a small portion of the people will dig into the book fast. I think if 100 people buy my book, 5 to 10 people will actually dig into it and read it within the first week. If I can impress the socks off of them, they become my next stage of marketing. It's the viral marketing, it's the Seth Godin concept of the sneezer effect, that if someone loves the book so much, they become my best marketing arm, and a week later they're telling their friends, I read Profit First, it really is that good, you got to get it. So there's two benefits of a significant launch. If you can get a lot of different people interested, Amazon as a major marketing engine will push it more, that gets the word out, and the people that actually consume and read the book very quickly, they'll start sneezing it out for you too, if they fall in love with your book. One last thing that points to the fact is you have to write a good book. These books that are the kind of the leave behinds, like a glorified business card, it doesn't work. I've seen launches where people launch crappy books, and yeah, they sell aggressively the first day because they marketed it well, they told people, but it doesn't cause the viral effect to kick in. There's no reason to share it because the book doesn't have this impactful message.
Right. And if it doesn't look good, if it just looks like a big business card, the chances that people are going to read it, that they're going to find real value in the content, and give you the authority and the trust as a result of reading your book, which ultimately is what you're trying to do. You're not just trying to sell copies of your book. You're trying to create people who believe in you.
Yeah, I want to show you an example. I'm trying to cover up this book because I don't want to show the author's information because that would be unfair. But here's a book I got in the mail. I don't know if you can see it. That's just the bottom half. I'm covering the top. But generic photo, pulled off of some kind of Photoshop thing, a very flimsy quality kind of thing. I saw typos and stuff immediately once I dug into it, and this is the final book. And it may be a phenomenal book, but the impression, too, is this is not something I'm going to dig into the second I have it. This is when I have some free time, which matters. I never have free time. No one does. When I have free time, I'm holding on to this thing. I'm going to read it. But it's not compelling enough to be – it's not causing the recommendation, the natural recommendation engine. I'm not looking at this saying, oh, I got to dig in, and I'm going to tell my friends. So part of the delivery of the book has to market itself. It has to be so compelling that people say, it's worth opening the first page, and then when they read this copy here, the inside flap, it's worth reading just a couple more pages, and then within 2 or 3 pages of the introduction, they're like, ooh, I'm hooked. Like that's our job as authors is getting the book in their hands is stage 1. Stage 2 is getting them open the book. Stage 3 is to get them hooked within the first few pages. That's how you market it.
They buy the sizzle, not the steak.
Right, exactly.
You gotta sell them with the sizzle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Donna, what were you going to say?
I think Mike touches on a really important point, which is you hear a lot about, write your book in a weekend, or, get your book published really fast. And then you talk to people who spend years working on one book. And I think it's an investment, and I think the reason why so many of us say we're aspiring authors is because we know it's an investment. But if you want to write a really good book, you can't write it in a weekend. And you have to, if you're going to self-publish, I think it's a financial investment as well. So if you want your book to be successful, you have to recognize that investment and be willing to make it. That's part of being an author, I think.
It's a little bit like an athlete, I believe, there's a lot of people that are interested and capable. Some will devote the time to actually performing at the top level, and the folks that devote that time aren't guaranteed success. Most of them will actually fail, and that's the field I feel I'm playing in. Is I've devoted myself to playing at the top level, but the odds, unfortunately, but honestly, are I'll fail. There's a lot of people playing there, but I also am committed that I'm not going to ever stop. So I also believe I have the stick-to-itness that I've made my odds the best. So it's, and you're disproportionately awarded or rewarded when I get paid, when you get to higher levels. So I want to, I like to share some of the details. So I wish I knew this stuff when I became an author from the get-go.
I'm glad you're here sharing it with us.
Yeah.
That's why we have this hangout.
There's 3 ways to make money that I found as an author consistently. One is by book sales. And if everyone tells you can't make money selling books, that means they haven't sold many books themselves, but they're lying. You can make money selling books.
What's your favorite tactic for selling books?
Write a good book. And that sounds like so basic. Write a good book.
Okay.
So it's the launch. It's getting the word out. It's building a readership. It's engaging the readership. It's being actually be a bigger fan of your fans than they are of you, and you've got the essence of it. But at the end of the day, if your book sucks, you're screwed. Write a great book. But the second way to make money is through speaking engagements. Now, I don't know if this is true for fiction writers, only from a nonfiction perspective. But 5 years ago, my average compensation for a speaking gig was $0. Like I shouldn't say it was $0. It was -500. I was paying my own travel and money to get out to speak anywhere who would take me. Today, my bill-out rate is $15,000. That doesn't necessarily mean I get $15,000 every gig. I'll negotiate and do speaking tours and stuff. But I have 8 engagements this year that are paying my full premium, and then I have this total year I'll probably do 50 engagements in total that are near premium, but that's my total set. That's a lot of money. And the thing is, when it came to those speaking fees, it didn't go like this linear growth toward it. Like 5 years ago, 0, then 3,000, 6,000, 7, 15. It's went like zero, then maybe like $100 I'd make, and it's really in the last 2 years that my rates went from 7,000 and now popped up to 15,000, and may even go higher. Like guys like Seth Godin, Guy Kawasaki, those guys are at least 50K. Some Malcolm Gladwell's 200K. It's disproportionate rewards for people that are playing at the top. I don't believe any of those speakers, including myself, deserve the fees we are getting based upon the effort we've made or the time. It's just that we've gotten to the one spot that's above pretty much everyone else, and then you get disproportionately rewarded. It's like the gold medalist who gets the gold medal in all the weeds box coverage, and the silver medalist no one remembers. So that's where we want to get to. So you can get a lot of money in speaking. The thing is, you got to be the gold medalist for your category. I don't compete or match with Seth Godin or Guy Kawasaki or Malcolm Gladwell. Those guys are phenomenal. But in my little category for bootstrap entrepreneurs and so forth, I've positioned myself that I'm near the top, and then I'm starting to get rewarded this unfair premium. So we all can do it. We all can do it. We just got to pick our niche. Yeah. Then the third way you make money is through sponsorships. And I cannot overstate how important this is, but large corporations want access to your readership. And they don't want direct access necessarily. They don't say, hey, Debbie, can I email all your friends? But they'll say, hey, Debbie, your friends trust you. Your readership trusts you. We'd like to affiliate with your name. So Monster.com just came on board with me recently. American Express. All these different companies are working with me because they want access to the readership indirectly. And they will pay a premium because they sell to your readership. And so you're basically a living, I shouldn't say commercial for them, but representative of their brand once you affiliate with them. Now, here's the great thing about sponsorships. The sponsors who really get it, and many of them do, say, not only do we want you kind of affiliating with our brand, we want you to be more successful because the bigger your name gets, Monster's coming along for the ride, or whoever the group is. And so they actually start supporting you and exposing you to their customer base because they want to affiliate and they want you to grow, and they support your growth. So you start this kind of upward spiral. They start promoting your book and telling people about your book. Your more book sales grow. Well, more book sales means more speaking engagements at a higher premium. Well, more speaking engagements means your sponsor's more excited about you. So you can get these three kind of spirals all going up simultaneously. I think that's... I almost stood up and started playing guitar to wrap up. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It sounds like the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah, you're right. It totally is.
At play in competing, and even the comment that you made about competing at the highest level. Whether or not you win the gold medal, it's still worthwhile to compete in the Olympics if you can.
Right. So and that's how I got started, because that's the only way they'll get you through the dark periods of being an author. In that I did it because I knew this is what my soul cries out to do. I also had enough logic to realize it may not work, but I had enough unreasonable anti-logic to say, but I got a shot at this. I might as well go for it. I think I got a real shot. And it's that excitement about the concept of just doing it that saw me through those dark periods. Literally, I did a speaking event at UC Irvine, California. I had to fly out there from New Jersey to speak to supposedly 50 people, and when I got there, no one showed for the event because there was a fraternity party going on. And I'm there by myself, the one tear streaming down my face, with one person. There was literally one person that attended. It was the coordinator, and I showed up. He's like, I'm sorry, man, but fraternity party wins. And I decided in that moment, am I going to continue this or am I going to give up? And I said, no, this is my passion. I love it. And I recognize that if every event going forward, only one person shows up, I got to be delivering on this. So I put on the speech. And it was embarrassing and humbling for the one guy there. First of all, have to watch me speak. Most of the time he was texting his friends saying, what's going on? Is Susie McHugh there? Is everyone drunk? And but I did it. And I think what saw me through was that fact that I was, I had a shot at least playing in the Olympics. I had a passion for it.
How did you know, though? Like, I guess you were already training for the marathon at that point. So it's a part of your training. Some days you fall over.
Yeah, and most days I fall over, right? Most days I can't tell you how many days I wake up and say, oh, God, I am absolutely pathetic. And I'm saying this smile, but I actually feel that way. I'm like, I'm embarrassed to be me, and I can't get out of me. I'm trying to. It's weird because I've met Simon Sinek. Actually, he's a good story. Simon Sinek, he writes the book called Start With Why. I met him right when he was getting started. I already had a Louise Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. He was consulting with me, saying, hey, how are some ideas to get this book going? And all of a sudden, he just hits it, and he explodes, and this guy is on TED and all these major conferences, and he's making a huge premium from speaking and writing these amazing books, and he just surpassed me. And I got wind, that at times he still questions himself. I'm like, dude, you did what you did in 1 year. I spent 5 years to get where I am. You did in like 6 months, and you're blowing things out of the water. How come you're down on yourself? And it's it's the nature of the beast. I think it's human to question ourselves, and the only thing that gets me through it is just saying, yeah, this is my purpose, to write books. Like I'm on purpose, and maybe no one will read it, but at least I'm on purpose, even though I think I suck.
Yeah, you can't do what you have to do what is your passion in life.
You have to.
And whether or not, the biggest things in the world, the things that are going to change the world, no one believes in yet, right? So if you want to change the world, you have to start with something that no one believes in yet, because otherwise, if everyone already believed in it, you're not changing anything.
But man, is it scary, right? So when I started working on Profit First, I was called like, Mike, that's the dumbest concept ever. Like, you're saying that accounting is not right. Accounting's right. You're the idiot. And it takes real fortitude to stick with it when your friends, your family, everyone you know says, and they don't say you're an idiot to your face. They're like, I don't know if I really like that one. I suggest you do something different. And when the entire world says you're wrong, to have the fortitude and say, no, I'm right. It's just going to take you time to figure out. That's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. I have actually passed up on things too, saying, well, I think they're right. I'm not going to do it. And I've put things aside. But it maybe becomes a muscle. Maybe over time, the more you kind of stand up for what you truly believe in, it becomes a stronger and stronger muscle, I don't know.
I think there's also experience that becoming a book author is something that so many people dream about, and that we put all of these imaginary roadblocks in our own way.
Yeah.
And when you go through the actual experience, as painful and as challenging and as amazing and abundant or surprising as it could be, you start to gain confidence, which is just what happens when you start practicing something.
Yeah, talking about that, my final tip before I got split is there's two types of authors. There's people that say I'm an author, and there's people that say I'm an author too, T-O-O, and that's a very distinct difference. When I've met people and they say, what do you do? And I go, well, I'm an author. And they're like, oh, wow, that's great. And I tell them, hey, what books have you written? I tell them some stuff like, oh, that's really great. I'm an author too. And they do it too as in it's secondary to their primary thing. Well, I own a business, but I'm an author too. Or, I work for this company, but I've written something, I'm an author too. I think as long as we play the I'm an author too game, you're never going to hit it out of the park as an author, because it's secondary to something else. I think when we own the label, I know for myself, it took me time. I used to say, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm an author too. Then one day, if I clicked, I said, no, I'm none of that stuff anymore. That chapter's done. I'm an author, period. That it changed my self-perception and what my responsibilities were. So if you're going into saying, yeah, I'm an author too, it's like an add-on, something to tack on to what you're currently doing, I don't think you can play in that Olympic level,
Right.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like I'm running a business and I like to make some profit too.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, could you imagine like Malcolm Gladwell?
Like, how ridiculous.
Yeah. Could you imagine like Malcolm Gladwell, who's like a kind of a hero for me, like him saying he's an author too? Like, wouldn't that be absurd? Or Seth Godin say, oh yeah, I'm an author too, or Stephen King to say, yeah, I'm an author too. Like, of course they would never say that. They own it and they are it. So that's my little final piece of experience is if you're going to be an author and you want to be, you want to do this, it's got to be an all-in. As scary as it sounds, it's got to be an all-in. Yeah, or if it's not an all-in, then all I can say is you're humping my leg. That's all you're doing. You're humping my leg.
The final word from Mike, don't hump my leg.
Don't hump my leg. Don't be that guy who dry humps my leg at a party.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Mike. I know you have to run off and on to your next interview, and I won't keep you. So we'll let you go, and I'm going to end the broadcast early. So thank you, everyone, for joining. If you want to just say really quick the website for the book before you have to jump off, Mike.
Sure. I mean, you can go to Amazon.com to go and type in Profit First. That's the name of the book. If you want to get free resources and stuff like that, go to MikeMichalowicz.com. I know that's like practically impossible to spell. The one blessing is I'm the only Mike Michalowicz on this planet. So just give your best shot at that in Google. It'll find me. And then on there, you'll see pictures of the book on every single page. You can click on it and get more details and free chapter downloads.
Thank you so much for being here. Again, you've been such a great supporter of the show, and I love the book, and thank you for including me in it.
Oh, yeah, and I encourage everyone to read it, if for nothing else, just for what, Debbie, for what you did in the book is powerful. Here's the hint. Debbie shared a story with me, and I said, I'd love to include this in the book. May I have the privilege to do it? And she said, you know what, yes. And I said, but I'll change the name because it's a tough experience you went through. I'll change the name. She goes, no. You have to keep it my name. People need to know it's me so that they're not ashamed of them revealing themselves in the same circumstance. So kudos to you for sharing that.
Thank you. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate it. And I mean, for me, it's just proof of how what I'm doing is working to create great relationships for me. So that's the bottom line. It's create great relationships through these Hangouts. So thank you so much for being here. And
all right, Debbie. Thank you. See you guys.
Take care, Mike.
See y'all.
Let Mike jump off. Awesome. That was such a great conversation. Now we do have a couple of minutes left. Donna, Jason, did either of you have any major aha moments?
I did, but not necessarily in terms of writing my own books. So. There were a few things that Mike said at the end that really jumped out at me in my DJ business and things that I do, and particularly at the very end when he said, I'm an author too, and he told that whole story. I cannot tell you how many times I will be performing at a wedding and I will have the cousin of the bride come up to me and go, oh, hey, I'm a DJ too, and then try to talk to me like it puts his all into what he does. And so it's very interesting to hear somebody else say that in a different realm, if you will.
Interesting. Yeah. And I see a lot of the, I mean, where I see it is people who, people are coming to me and saying that they've launched an online medium like a web show or frequently a web magazine online that they've launched, and they're looking for people to now become the salesperson. They want someone else to go out and sell them, and I say, but you have to have stats, you have to have figures, you have to have existing sales and existing advertisers in order for you to demonstrate the way to cheerlead this business. Right. You have to be the biggest and best cheerleader in your business no matter what. And that extends into sales. You have to learn how to sell your business before you can hire someone to sell your business.
I agree with that.
Especially a media channel, but that's, I digress. Donna, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. And the interesting thing for me is, like Mike, like a lot of other people, I've had a lot of ideas, and I've always seen myself as someday I will write a book or more than one book. But when Mike talked about my computer just can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're just coming in and out just a little bit. But, yeah. Oh, we just lost her.
We lost
right in the middle of a point. And I have to wonder, just from a tech standpoint on Hangouts, it could be Phil coming in and out of the program. Not that it's any of your fault, Phil, or any of your point, but I noticed that when you dropped off, or when you were coming back in, was the same time that Donna started having tech issues. So interesting for me to note about the Hangout, and I've certainly seen my video going from horribly pixelated and unclear to quite clear and not too bad.
I've seen everybody's kind of did. Mike did that, you did that, Donna did that. I'm sure I'm doing it too. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's one of the points about Hangouts. They're not always, certainly from an investment standpoint and from an output, I think that they give great quality results for the amount of time and money that we invest.
Right.
If you want the highest quality possible video output from your Hangouts and you're interested in doing something like remotes and all sorts of interesting, complicated stuff, absolutely, if you have a $50,000 budget or a $20,000 budget or a $100,000 budget, you can get anything you want. So that's what I have to say on Hangouts. Everyone who talks about, you have to do it. Well, have the budget for it. If you want to do it, you just got to invest. And it's time, it's money, it's energy, it's expertise. But I like these Hangouts, so I'm glad, I'm glad to have other aspiring authors joining me. When I first started the Hangout, it was only experienced authors, and I was the only aspiring one.
So there is one thing. I know we're pretty much at the end, so I don't know. I'll let you obviously close out. But one thing I wanted to say, I was lucky enough. I do have Mike's book. It did come.
You're super lucky.
And while your name is certainly throughout this book, I do have one little line in the front where my name exists, and that's because I helped go through it and, spelling and all that good grammar check stuff in there, which means if you see something bad, you can blame me. I believe you were part of that Fab 15 as well.
Absolutely.
So when I first got it and I saw you and your story in the book, which, of course, as the Fab 15, we weren't in the introduction yet, but I saw you at the beginning of the book, and it's from the Creative Live session. And so what I wanted to kind of stem off some stuff that Mike talked about, which was, this is a true story. And I was there, I lived it, so I have a different connection than somebody just picking this book up off the street will. But I was there when it happened. I was in the audience and saw you on stage when the story that he tells, I don't want to give everything away, but the story he tells comes out, and I actually was sitting there and I almost got choked up in the moment because I was there. I saw it. I actually went back to my Creative Live recording session and I watched it again just because it was in the book, and it was so I don't know, it was real. I don't know how else to say it. It was real, and I know that everything else in this book is real, and I know Mike's not here to hear it, but I'm glad that from the Pumpkin Plan, I mean, I can't really speak too much to the Toilet Paper Entrepreneur because I didn't read it more than twice, but from everything in the Pumpkin Plan and everything that I've read in Profit First, which I've been through twice already, the story of his daughter in the piggy bank and your story and these other stories that are in all these books are real stories. And that's one of the things that I love about how Mike writes. And it makes it so much easier to read it because you can connect with it.
It's interesting. I mean, I love that idea of take the smallest thing and blow it up. That's when I was struggling with blogging, and how do I come up with an idea for a blog post every day, or for new content for a different audience? Like, how do I repurpose my ideas in a million different ways? That was what really calmed me down. Like, I was almost sort of like having anxiety. Oh my God, how am I possibly going to come up with all this content? And that was the one thing, was the focus on the smallest thing, and then become, like Mike talks about in the Pumpkin Plan, where he talks about become the best in the world at in your community, become the best in your world at what you do, so that there's you are the de facto source to turn to when they need something like you. They already know you're right there, and I think there's some point to that. I love so much of what Mike said today. It was a great conversation, totally different panel. Like, every show is different, and I'm still recording. I just want to let everyone who knows, another book launching today. This is the galley copy, not the actual launch copy. So this is an advanced galley copy from the author Sally Hogshead. She's launching her book, How the World Sees You, today, which is really about how we all have the ability to fascinate our audiences, and what our skills, our innate skills are for fascinating. I started reading it yesterday out in the park, and in the beginning she says that this book took her 5 years to write. So, Sally, congratulations on your first book coming out and the launch today of How the World Sees You, and the Fascination Project that is 5 years in the making. Congratulations. I'm always happy to launch. And for everyone who's still watching, we're, of course, really excited about Profit First launching on July 8th. And if you want to get actually started with Profit First, and the whole Profit First system is so simple, it's so easy to implement. It's just a change in your thinking. It's a change in the way you look at your finances in your business, and you can actually be profitable today. If you download the first 5 chapters of the book, they're really easy to read, fun and interesting to read, and it's super simple to implement. This is not a complicated system. It's not I'm horrible at finances. And certainly I don't know if accountants that I've been reaching out to with this book are really appreciating me so much, because I know nothing about finances. But hopefully everyone will, I think eventually everyone will get with the program, because it just makes too much sense. I don't know. I think maybe the government of the United States should purchase 100,000 copies, or purchase a copy for every unemployed but seeking individual. I think that would be very interesting. Anyways. Hey, Donna,
Debbie,
you came back.
I'm back. My computer shut itself down, so I apologize.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. You disappeared while I was talking.
Oh, you didn't even notice that I was gone in the
middle
of the
sentence? I noticed that you were gone, but there's nothing I can do, so I kind of waited. I was waiting for you to come back, and then I forgot.
Well, it took a little while. I had to reboot. And I'm not sure if I disappear again. My computer seems to be extremely hot. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, what I wanted to add in was I've been using Profit First for about 2 years now. We started our business with the Profit First system in place, and it's done a few things. Number one, we have been taking a profit from the beginning. This ensured that we didn't just plow everything back indiscriminately into our business. And that's an amazing thing, because you hear so many startups saying, oh, well, in another year or two, maybe I'll be profitable. But the other thing that I found really useful is I work with other small businesses, and having a framework for understanding as you grow where your expenses should be. This gives you that in really, really simple terms. It's all percentages. And so I've got clients saying, who have home offices saying, well, how do I know when I can afford an office? How do I know when I can afford to hire somebody? And when we go through the Profit First percentages and look at what their current expenses are, where they can cut, and all of that, they now have a target. Okay, I know what I need to do, and I know when I know that I'm not ready now, or maybe I am ready now, but it's not complicated, it's not overwhelming. I just recently saw something about having a financial dashboard, and you could pick, like, it said pick 10 of these 30 different reports, and most of it is stuff that small business owners would never look at. You know, do you look at your current ratio every week or every day? You probably, if you weren't a finance major, you don't know what that is.
I'd be terrified if I did that.
Yeah, it's most of it is not relevant to how we operate our day-to-day business, and that's the beauty of Profit First. It's not for Fortune 500 companies. It's for people like us who are running small businesses and who are trying to manage our money, grow a business, and make money. So it's the beauty of it also, and I wrote this in my blog post this week, is that we all could, like, stifle our yawns when we think about, oh my gosh, do I really want to read a book about accounting? Of course not, you know, unless you're an accountant and you're really interested in the topic. Most of us aren't. But as I said, Mike is probably the only person on the planet who can make accounting amusing to the point where you're laughing out loud. So it's not a painful book to read, and it really gives you a step-by-step. It's not theory. It's step by step. Here's what you do next. So,
I think there's two things I love about what you said. One, the rule of thumb in business, if you're starting, if you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, if you're starting a business, if you're getting into self-employment, everyone's going to tell you it's 3 to 5 years before you'll be profitable. And now I know that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Excuse me swearing. But it is. It's like you should be profitable from the very first day. And this is just coming into my head in these moments, is that this is a book for people like me who, prior to Profit First and prior to starting to implement it within my business, I would manage my finances and manage myself, really manage my how am I doing in business, my, you know, patting myself on the back emotionally as I walk through my day. I would manage it based on how much was in my bank account versus how many bills I knew I had to pay in a certain amount of time in the future. And I think I did that because when I was growing up, I didn't have really great role models for money, for understanding and really embracing the power that money can bring into your life. And I just never had people teaching me good processes and good systems and good approaches with money personally as a human being. So then I started a business, and I'm good at what I do. I'm good at my core capability. But I have all of these struggles because I'm insecure as a human being. I'm personally insecure. Thanks, Phil, for joining us. I'm personally insecure about money in my life prior to Profit First. I'm insecure about how much do I know, what is the right amount for me to be spending on expenses? What is the right amount for me to be paying myself? What is the right amount for me to be paying other people that I'm hiring, like to do stuff that I can't even do, that I need to hire people? Am I paying too much, or am I paying too little, or do I even have the money to hire them at all? I was so insecure personally about money that I went to just look at the bank account, and if you have enough to cover your bills, breathe and wait for the next big, you know, $10,000 or $20,000 client deposit to come in. And I actually went through an experience after meeting with Mike in San Francisco where all of my previous sort of like the hopper of clients that just came to me, they dried up. And it's now I have, you know, like they dried up, and so of course now my expenses, I'm spending more money than I'm making, and I'm losing money every month instead of being, in theory, profitable. Like I'm scraping by. I'm in the black, I guess, in the red, in the black, and what Profit First does is it gives you a really simple framework so that you can just remove your insecurities and follow if I'm earning this amount right now, here's what my expense is next month. Here's my budget for expenses next month. Here's my budget for salaries next month. Here's my budget for taxes. You know, God knows I'll get those covered next month. And profit, you know, profit comes out first. Profit is every single day, so you can sleep well, so that you can know that, yeah, I'm paying myself in this business for the work that I'm doing today.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for hosting this. I actually have to jump for real now.
Yep. So thank you, and I'll end the broadcast now. Thanks for watching. You who are still watching, I appreciate you, and we'll be back soon.